It's 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night. You're lying in bed, phone screen burning into your retinas, and you're doing that thing again. That mental math thing. Okay, rent hits on the 1st. That's 1400. Car payments due on the 5th, 387. Insurance auto drafts on the 12th. You're scrolling through your bank app, watching the numbers, trying to figure out if that $37 in your checking account needs to stretch 4 days or 5 until payday. And here's the kicker. You made decent money this month. You didn't go crazy. You skipped the concert tickets. You said no to drinks with friends twice. You've been eating the same sad rotation of chicken and rice for 19 days straight. Ite. And somehow, you're still here, staring at that balance like it personally betrayed you. Look, I'm Noah, and I need to tell you something that everyone around you is too polite or too clueless to say out loud. That suffocating feeling you get every time your phone buzzes with a payment notification? That low-grade panic humming in the background of every single purchase? That's not a personal failing. That's the intended experience of an economic machine that was designed, very deliberately, to keep you exactly where you are. Today we're going to crack open the actual mechanics of why 78% of American workers can't break this cycle, no matter how many lattes they don't buy. And I'm going to show you what the financial industry desperately hopes you never figure out. So here's where we need to start. Somewhere along the line, we all absorbed this idea that financial stress is temporary, a phase, something you power through in your 20s, maybe your early 30s, and then, boom, you emerge on the other side with a 401k and a house with a yard. That narrative made sense once. Back in 1985, a median household earning $47,000 annually could realistically purchase a home worth 3 times their yearly income. Today, that same median household earns $74,000. Sounds like progress until you realize the median home now costs $423,000. That's not 3 times annual income anymore. That's 5.7 times. And housing is just the opening act. The average American now spends 18.2% of their income on transportation, another 12.8% on food. Healthcare premiums have increased 317% since 1999, while wages grew 43%. If these ratios seem mathematically incompatible with building wealth, congratulations. Your brain is functioning correctly, but everyone around you keeps insisting this is normal. Your parents say it. Personal finance influencers chirp about it from their ring light setups. HR departments casually mention competitive compensation packages without laughing. So you internalize the dissonance. You assume the problem is your execution, not the equation itself. Let me show you why that assumption is destroying you. The fundamental lie embedded in every budget template, every savings app, every well-meaning article about cutting expenses is this. They all assume your income is fixed and your expenses are controllable. Both assumptions are garbage. Your income isn't fixed, it's actively suppressed. Between 1979 and 2023, worker productivity increased by 64.7%. Compensation for those same workers? Up 17.3%. Somewhere, a gap of 47.4% got siphoned off. Not into inflation adjustments, not into your benefits, into corporate profit margins and executive bonuses. Meanwhile, your controllable expenses? Let's break those down. Rent or mortgage. The National Low-Income Housing Coalition reports that there is no state in America where a full-time minimum wage worker can afford a modest 2-bedroom apartment. None. Zero. But let's assume you're not earning minimum wage. Let's say you're making $22 an hour, which puts you above 61% of American workers. After taxes in a mid-cost state, you're taking home roughly $3,100 a month. Housing at 30% of income, the recommended maximum, means you can afford $930 monthly. The average 1-bedroom apartment in the U.S. currently rents for $1,700. $37. You're short $807 before you've bought food, gas, or a single thing you actually want. But wait, maybe you found a deal. Maybe you have roommates. Maybe you're in a lower-cost market. Great. Let's pretend you squeezed into something at $1,100 a month. You're still over budget, but survivable. Now add the non-negotiables. Health insurance through your employer, $483 monthly for the average worker. Car payment on a used vehicle in today's market, $522 average. Auto insurance, $219. Phone, because you literally cannot apply for jobs without one, $87. Internet, same reasoning, $63. Utilities, $147. Renter's insurance, $21. We're at $3,043. Your take-home was $3,100. That leaves $57 for gas, groceries, and every other expense in your life, $57. And this is assuming nothing goes wrong. No medical bill, no car repair, no emergency. This is the baseline. This is the best-case scenario math for someone earning more than most Americans. Now here's where this gets genuinely maddening. Financial experts, and I'm using that term loosely, recommend saving 20% of your income. They recommend an emergency fund covering 3 to 6 months of expenses. They recommend contributing at least enough to your 401k to capture employer matching. Let's do that math. 20% of $3,100 is $620 monthly for savings. Your emergency fund target, based on those expenses, is $18,258 minimum. At $620 per month, assuming you have zero unexpected costs, that's 29.4 months to build your emergency fund. 2.5 years of nothing going wrong. But you don't have $620, you have $57. At $57 per month, that emergency fund takes 320.3 months. That's 26.6 years. This isn't a willpower problem. This is arithmetic. Let me introduce you to someone I'll call Jamie and Chris, a couple in their late 20s, combined household income of $118,000. By American standards, they're doing well. Top 30% of earners, they have degrees, professional jobs. They did the things you're supposed to do. After federal and state taxes, FICA, and their mandatory 401k contributions to get the company match, their take-home is approximately $7,200 per month. They rent a 2-bedroom apartment because they both work from home sometime, and need office space. In their market, that's $2,400. They have 2 car payments because public transit doesn't exist where they live, totaling $860. Insurance on both vehicles is $341. Student loans, because they did the education thing, $618 combined on income-driven repayment plans. Health insurance premiums through work, $487 for the household. Utilities and internet, $215. Phone plans, $144. Groceries for 2 adults, $720 according to USDA moderate cost plan. Their baseline monthly obligations total $6,785. That leaves $415 for gas, parking, clothing, household supplies, car maintenance, medical copays, prescriptions, haircuts, anything that breaks, any gift for any occasion, and any single moment of enjoyment in their entire lives. $415. These people earn more than 70% of American households. They live modestly. They don't take vacations. They haven't been to a restaurant in 4 months. Jamie cuts Chris's hair in the bathroom. They buy birthday presents at Dollar Tree and pretend it's quirky instead of necessary. They're spending 94.2% of their net income on baseline survival. Not 30% on housing, not 50% on needs, 94.2% on the absolute minimum to exist at their current jobs. And here's what that actually feels like day to day. It's calculating whether you can afford to run the air conditioning when it's 93 degrees outside, or if you should just sweat through another night because electricity is variable and the budget doesn't have variance. It's getting a text that a friend's birthday dinner is at a restaurant you've never heard of, and spending 20 minutes on the menu website doing silent math, calculating if you can order a side salad and water and still seem like a normal human being. It's the specific tension in your jaw when your check engine light comes on. Not fear of the car breaking, fear of the invoice, wondering if this is the unexpected expense that sends everything tumbling down. It's lying to your partner about whether something is fine when you both know nothing is fine, because acknowledging how precarious everything is would require admitting neither of you knows how to escape. It's waking up at 3 a.m. with your chest tight, running scenarios. If I got laid off tomorrow, if one of us got sick, if the car died, each scenario terminating in the same dead end. We'd be ruined. It's the slow erosion of hope, not dramatic despair, just this grinding recognition that next year will look like this year, that the finish line you were promised keeps receding, that everyone who told you to work hard and sacrifice and wait for it to pay off either got lucky or was lying. Now let's talk about why this isn't an accident. The financial services industry, the housing market, and your employer exist in a symbiotic relationship that requires your perpetual instability to function. Banks and credit card companies don't make money from financially stable people. Someone with savings doesn't pay 27% interest on carry ed balances. Someone with an emergency fund doesn't need payday loans at 400% APR. The entire consumer lending industry, worth $1.5 trillion, is predicated on you being one emergency away from needing their products. Your stress is their revenue model. Landlords and property management companies benefit directly from housing. Scarcity. When a private equity firm buys 30,000 single-family homes and converts them to rentals, they're not providing housing. They're removing inventory from the purchase market to force you into renting from them instead. Your inability to build equity is their quarterly earnings. Your employer benefits from your financial precarity in ways I'll never admit publicly. An employee with 6 months of savings can walk away from a toxic workplace. An employee with $200 in checking can't. Every policy that keeps wages stagnant, every benefit that gets worse each year, every "we're a family here" speech that substitutes for actual compensation, all of it relies on you being too financially trapped to leave. No one sitting across that transaction from you has any incentive to change your circumstances. The system isn't broken. It's performing exactly as designed. Your participation under duress is the product. And once you're in this machine, once you've signed that lease and financed that car and started that job, the exit costs become their own prison. Break your lease? That's 2 months' rent as penalty plus moving costs plus first and last at the new place. Walk away from the car? Your credit score craters for 7 years and you still owe the deficiency. Quit your job without another lined up? You've got maybe 3 weeks before everything collapses. So people stay. They absorb the stress. They tell themselves next year will be better. They watch their 20s become their 30s become their 40s, and they wonder quietly why success feels exactly like drowning. And here's the truly perverse part. We've rebranded this suffering into virtue. We call drowning in expenses adulting. We call having no financial margin hustle culture. We call chronic anxiety about money being responsible, as if the inability to build anything resembling security is a character-building exercise instead of economic violence. So let me give you permission to do something that every financial authority in your life will tell you is irresponsible. Stop playing by their rules. If your household income cannot mathematically support a 30% housing ratio and a 20% savings rate and retirement contributions and an emergency fund, then those benchmarks aren't goals. They're gaslighting. They're standards designed for an economy that no longer exists, wielded to make you feel individually deficient for collective failure. You can acknowledge the math doesn't work without blaming yourself for not magically transcending arithmetic. You can stop pouring money into a house you can't afford just because home ownership is the American dream. For most people in most markets, renting and investing the difference builds more wealth anyway. The math on this has been done, repeatedly. You can stop sacrificing your present for a future that the numbers say isn't coming. Not because you're giving up, but because accepting reality is the first step toward navigating it intelligently. You can stop measuring yourself against benchmarks created by people who bought their houses in 1987 and haven't updated their worldview since. Here's what I actually want you to do. Stop looking at what you should be saving according to some formula. Start looking at what you actually can save without destroying your mental health. Maybe that's $50 a month. Maybe it's $20. Maybe right now it's $0, and you need to focus on increasing income before anything else. Stop asking, "Can I afford the monthly payment?" and start asking, "What does this cost me in years of my life?" That car isn't $387 a month. It's 93 hours of your labor every single month for the next 6 years. Is that trade worth it? Stop optimizing expenses when your expense-to-income ratio is already pathological. No amount of cutting avocado toast fixes a 47% productivity compensation gap. At some point, the lever is income, not spending. And stop, please stop, comparing your Chapter 3 to someone else's Chapter 14. That coworker with the nice car might be drowning in exactly the same way you are. The friend who just bought a house might have had 6 figures of parental help you'll never see. The social media version of people's finances is as fictional as their curated vacation foddy. EOS. The game as currently constructed cannot be won by most players. That's not an opinion. That's what happens when housing costs grow 4 times faster than wages for 40 years. But you can refuse the terms. You can decide that financial stability means something different than what you've been sold. You can build a life that works within actual constraints instead of breaking yourself against aspirational ones. And if you're watching this and your income genuinely cannot cover your survival costs, if the math literally doesn't work, then the answer isn't budget harder. The answer is change the inputs. Different job, different city, different industry, different arrangement entirely. Those changes are terrifying and disruptive and sometimes impossible. But optimizing a losing position indefinitely isn't the answer either. This is Noah, and my actual point is this. You're not failing a system that was designed to work for you. You're being exploited by a system designed to extract from you. Those are different problems with different solutions. The first step isn't a budget app. It's understanding that the rules were written by the people who benefit from you following them. The second step is deciding which rules you're going to stop following. And the third step, the one nobody talks about, is forgiving yourself for not winning a game that was rigged before you were born. You're not less capable for being realistic. You're not less ambitious for refusing impossible terms. You're just someone who finally looked at the math clearly. And that, right there, is the beginning of something different.